Hello everyone, welcome to the demo for the vendor and form management system that we have created for Quantum Leap Incorporation. This system allows the company to onboard new vendors, to then create new forms from scratch, and to assign these forms to these vendors. On the vendor side, we allow there to be multiple vendor user accounts to be created, where the vendors can log in via these accounts to populate the forms and to then submit them to the admin accounts to be vetted. On the admin account side, the forms once vetted can be approved and be sent to the approver. Otherwise, it can be rejected with its reasons and sent back to the vendors. On the approver side, the approver can choose to approve of the form and the form will be successfully completed. Otherwise, the form can be rejected and be bounced back to the admin. This process can be repeated as many times as needed, and it can be repeated across any vendors as well as across any forms. Now, we'll be logging in with the admin account. Upon logging in, you'll be greeted with the home page as well as the three main charts. This first chart shows the breakdown of all of the form statuses throughout the company with its varying status such as awaiting vendor or awaiting approval. Next, we have the line chart showing the number of newly onboarded vendors in the current year that we are in. Lastly, it shows the average number of form rejections per vendor and is sorted in descending order. So we'll be able to quickly see at one glance which vendor has a high form rejection rate and therefore more attention could be paid to the vendor. Now, we'll be first creating our vendor. So we can input our vendor name, as well as the country, as well as some details. On the successful creation, you'll be greeted with the vendor card here. And at one glance, you can take a look at all of the form badges here, showing the breakdown of the form statuses for this vendor. On clicking in, you can see you'll be greeted with the vendor page as well as the breakdown of all of its forms, as well as three charts here. The first being the breakdown of the form statuses for this particular vendor. The next being a form updates chart showing the forms rejected, the forms completed, as well as the forms assigned for this particular day for this vendor. Lastly, we have the form deadline chart for this particular vendor as well, showing the number of days left for all of the forms under this vendor. Now, we'll be creating our first user for this vendor, Sean. So we'll input the username as well as the email. Next, we can choose the access type, this being a vendor, as well as the vendor that we're creating this user for, and the password as well. So you'll be greeted with this confirmation page, as well as this send email to user button, where upon the successful creation of the user, an email containing these details will be sent to the vendor account. So upon the successful creation, we will now create a form for this vendor. We'll click on the Add Form button and we will be brought to the Form Builder page. So in this page, you can select from existing templates, such as this, and you can choose to add your own form components as well. For instance, a new header section here, and the font size. So as you can see, there are many different form elements that you can choose to add. Furthermore, you can choose to add a vendor section as well as an admin section. Vendor section meaning it is only to be filled up by the vendor. Admin section meaning a section to be filled up only by the admin. So we'll create our first form. And now we'll assign the form. Sorry, we'll now take a preview at the form. So we can choose to save this form as a template as well. However, we will now assign the form to vendor Sean, and we can set a deadline for the form to be completed by. Take note that you're not allowed to choose a date before the existing date today. An error will pop up if you do so. So let's set at the end of the month. And as you can see, the form has been created and be brought back to the home page. Now the charts are updated. You can see that there is now one form awaiting the vendor, as well as one newly onboarded vendor in the year 2023. Going to the vendor page, likewise, you can see that there is now 22 days left to the deadline for this Form A, as well as one new form awaiting the vendor, as well as one new update in the form overall in the form update today chart. As you can see, the forms assigned. Form A assigned to vendor Sean. On clicking the button, you'll be brought directly to the form as well. So now we'll be logging in to the user account that we have created. So upon logging in to the vendor user account, we'll be greeted with the vendor homepage. Similar to the previous admin vendor page charts, a vendor will be able to see the charts here. So as mentioned earlier, if we click on this form button, it will be brought directly to the form. So I'll now fill in the form details. And should you need to save the form at any point, you can click on this. However, for now, upon filling all of the required fields, we'll now submit the form to the admin. As you can see, I've left out a field by accident, and there will be an error message showing that. So the form has now been submitted, and the breakdown of the form status has now been changed to awaiting admin. And since the vendor has completed his part of the work, there is now no more forms left to deadline. And as you can see here, the form is now shifted over to forms completed. As well as over here, it's now waiting for admin approval. So now we'll log back into the admin account. Likewise, the charts are updated. And as you see here, the forms completed, it is now shown that vendor has completed form A. Upon clicking into it, you can see the vendor section is filled up, and the admin section is not filled up because this is for us, the admin, to fill it up now. So we can choose to reject the form, which I will show later. However, for now, we'll submit for approval. Upon submitting to approval, the charts are now awaiting the approval. The form is now awaiting the approval, and we'll log into the approval account. Upon logging into the approval account, the approver can now go into the vendor page, and as you can see, forms completed is now just completed by the admin, form A. So as the chart here showing that it's now waiting for the approval. You can choose to click the button to go into this form, or we can enter via here. Upon entering via here, and assuming that we have vetted it all well, we can now approve the form, and the form is now successfully completed. So now I'll be showing you a case where there are rejections along the way. So we'll create a new form. As you can see, there's now one form awaiting for the vendor. So now we'll log into the vendor account. And as you can see, there's two new overall form updates for this vendor today. So we have the form A, which is now completed by the approver, as well as this A form, which is now has just been assigned to this vendor, Sean. Likewise, you can see from the chart here, there's one completed and one awaiting for the vendor. As well as the chart here, there's only one form having 7 days left to the deadline. When entering the form, we will once again show all of the details. And we'll submit it to the admin. Now that we've logged back into the admin account, we can now see that there is one form completed by the vendor. Clicking into it, and let's say for whatever reason we choose to reject the form, we can explain why we choose to reject the form, such as details not filled out properly, and we can choose to set a new deadline for the form. So upon rejecting the form is now bounced back to awaiting vendor, and logging into the vendor account. We can now see that there is one new form being in the rejected section, A, admin rejected. Clicking into it, we can see the reasons for rejection as well as the new deadline. The vendor can now fill out the new form accordingly based on the reasons. So now logging back to the admin account, we can see that there is an auto remind here. So we have configured it such that for every form with 3 days left to the deadline, there will be an automatic email reminder that will be sent to all user accounts under this particular vendor for the relevant forms. Furthermore, there's also a manual email notification here, where upon clicking it, we can type the email address we want to send to as well as the message. Please complete the form. The email has been sent successfully to the vendor account. So lastly, we can manage all of our users here. We can also manage all of our vendors here and manage all of the templates that we have. We can choose to delete the templates as well as to view the templates. And with that, we have come to the end of our demo.